So in this video, we're going to pick right off where we left off, where we're doing a side-by-side comparison of Spider-Man, the character Obito from Naruto, time of Spider-Man, where we have Obito, also known as Tobi, and a Spider-Man actor named as Toby. The relevance of these characters, they're both playing rabbits. They're both playing Mercury Rabbits, where one is a character named Peter Parker, which is a play on Peter Rabbit, and the actor's name is Toby, which is a play on the Toby Rabbit story, and then also Tommy Rabbit and Tom Holland, and then they have the same thing with Tommy and Toby and Peter Rabbit all being traditional kids stories. So this is really just a retelling of rabbit hole stories, and this is why both of these characters are often falling down rabbit holes. Peter Parker goes through many different dimensions, and Obito's ability or power is about dimensions. So I'll continue to show their similarities in different stories and their background stories, and even add some other stories that would surprise you all that they're all really telling the same story. But in this segment, we're going to really focus on the idea of the black goo, which is known as Venom in the Spider-Man universe, but in other shows, it's kind of like this Venom idea as well. And then this is also a play on the Cain and Abel, or Ken and Abel, and then a enemy or an enemy idea, where it's the actual enemy of a person, but the actual enemy of a person is actually spiritual. So it's me, or yourself is really the danger. So what's interesting about both of these stories is both of these characters are inverses, where they have a character or a friend that's directly around them that is also a rabbit, where you have Obito or Toby, you have Kakashi, which is a Mercury Rabbit, Quicksilver idea, and then you have Obito, who's kind of like the phasing ability idea. But in Spider-Man, you have Peter Parker, who's a play on the Peter Rabbit story. And then you also have Harry Osborn, which is a play on Harry Rabbit story. And kind of sort of similar to Harry Potter, is also playing a rabbit. And you kind of see that to resolve their problems, they have to work together through a hard time. And in this Venom idea, the Venom adds an extra component where the mercurial change is now what they have to override or overcome. So we enter the black goo. In both of these stories, there's this black goo idea, whereas in Naruto, we have the black Zetsu that's hidden in Obito or Toby along the story. It's kind of like an insidious, hidden spiritual symbiote. And given his pervasive powers that he gains from it, kind of the same idea as being played with the Spider-Man story. When Spider-Man gets the black suit, he has this moment where he's like, this suit, this power feels good. And then as the story progresses, you see the suit is actually more harm to him than it is good. And this same storyline is shown in a lot of different rabbit hole stories, where a character is playing a rabbit and they get their abilities, but then there's a point where if they go too far down the rabbit hole, they may bring something back that they didn't want to bring back. And you see that in these two stories, but I'll show you later on in the video other examples of this as well. And remember, the black goo chooses these characters, or is looking for these characters specifically because they're both the rabbit characters, whereas you see the Venom is attracted to the idea of Spider-Man because he knows that's a rabbit hole character, and almost like that character is a catalyst for him to go to other places. And in the upcoming Spider-Man Venom crossover that everyone's expecting with Tom Holland and Tom Hardy, and both those characters being a play on the Tommy Rabbit story. That's why those actors are chosen for those roles. And you see Tom Hardy also chosen for the Venom role, the Bane role, which is the same kind of story as I'll show later on in this video. But in the upcoming crossover, or from what we've seen with the after credits, we see that Venom is out of place. He's traveling as a rabbit in his own respect, where he is then transported to one reality and then transported to another reality, and a little bit is left there because it's attracted to Spider-Man, which is another out of place rabbit. In this concept, just think of something like the Matrix, where you have Neo, who's the rabbit, right? Follow the white rabbit, and once he becomes who he becomes, or he's able to kind of go back and forth to those two different rabbit holes, our world and the Matrix, then Agent Smith is attracted to him with the black goo kind of concept as well. And then in Spider-Man 3, as I mentioned in the previous video, we have Spider-Man sitting outside watching the night sky with Mary Jane on this large spider web in the sky. And the same kind of concept applies for like Skynet in the Terminator series, where those are characters who are rabbits are traveling through a rabbit hole to another rabbit hole. And you see the black goo even in the Terminator series. But as Spider-Man's sitting outside with Mary Jane, they're watching the sky or the shooting of the stars, and the net acting as a portal welcomes the other world or welcomes the black goo into our world. And what will happen, hopefully by the time we're done this video, you'll see that these aren't really, the story isn't really about aliens. It's not really about robots from the future or anime ninjas. It's more so a spiritual idea. It's not even about this, about space, although the sky does encode things. It's not actually physical places you can go to, more so spiritual ideas. And what I like about the Obito character is once he's able to overcome the black Zetsu, his hair kind of turns back to gray like Kakashi, letting you know that these characters are really, it's really an underlying story about rabbits that go through rabbit holes. And encoded anytime you have a story like that, you're going to see Mercury. Just think about somebody like Marty McFly in Back to the Future, who's a rabbit who went through the wormhole, which is the time travel. And in different parts of the series, they even show him with the gray hair, the old man, Marty McFly. And I'll show you that this is kind of a normal thing with these type of characters. Somebody's hair may change to gray. A character may have gray hair automatically. And that's just encoding Mercury in that character or the change that happens. So later on in this video, I'll show some more examples of different stories that include traveling rabbits and they're going down the black hole that invites the darkness or the tarring. And this even applies to our natural world. I'll show you how this is even used in our language. This is even used in spiritual concepts of going too far down the rabbit hole. But hopefully once these examples are done, you should see that it's really, these stories are really about the sky and spirituality. So in the first segment of this video, I put some dialogue in from the TV show Roots. And that was done by design, not to trigger people, but to kind of test the intelligence of the viewers or who's paying attention. So Roots is a TV show about depicting slavery, right? But if you really research who put it out and all those things like that, you'll see there's more to the show. I believe the writers of the show are now calling it a myth. And if you know anything about myths, myths are retellings of the sky. They're using characters that are playing the sky to explain to you stories and lessons. And this is a story that is a kind of story or a lesson for the public. It's not just put out because it's entertainment and a documentary. It's put out to direct the minds. So it's a really big story. And this is why the main character is playing a rabbit. You're getting a character named Kunta Kinte. Remember, rabbit names, especially when they're the mascot of a series, might have first initial, last initial being the same, like Bad Bunny. So we have, or Kim Kardashian. So we have Kunta Kinte. And then his alter ego, where he has to choose if he wants to accept it or not, is a character named Tobi. And Tobi is a rabbit story. And you'll see that a lot of stories like this are going on, especially stories that are so-called African-American historical stories. They're not original stories. They're being put out by the people in charge. And why rabbits? Well, remember, rabbits are used in magic tricks. When you're a viewer watching a magician do a trick, a rabbit is also often the catalyst of using that trick, the vector for the trick. But you're the viewer, which means a trick is being played on you. So that's an important thing to remember. And I'll go more in Roots later on, but just consider that rabbits are always in the grass and making holes in the ground, getting carrots out. Like, this is why you see Mario go in and out of the ground. And we have a show seemingly called Roots about a character who's playing a rabbit. And you'll see that this Roots concept is always kind of hidden in these rabbit stories. Just think about how the Venom suit spreads onto Spider-Man. It has to do with the roots or the vine or the divine. It has to do with your spirituality. And just consider, like in Naruto, for example, all of the rabbit characters, both Kakashi and Tobi, they're always associated with a wood user or someone that has like vines, right? Where in Kakashi you have Yamoto, and Naruto you have, with Tobi you have Zetsu, which is the plant like rabbit that comes out of the ground, just like Tobi. And then someone like Rocket Raccoon, who's playing Sirius the Dog Star and the rabbit combined, you have Groot with him.
This is an ongoing thing. I can show this in many other series, but and to further drive home the black experience, right? Consider what this video is about. This video is telling you about rabbits, right? Mercury rabbits that go too far down the rabbit hole and they bring some darkness back with them. And it's usually in the form of tarring, but I'll show you later on in this video. There's so many other forms of it. There's a TV show called Power, and there's spinoffs, I think, called Ghost. Remember, the Cain and Abel story is really important in these stories. And what you're presented is that there's this rapper named 50 Cent who is responsible for the show. Like, it's all his vision and all. And I can show you that there's nothing but a simple rabbit story retold, which means it's a put out. And it's about the sky just encoded in characters. And if you think this is not true, just consider it comes out on a channel called Stars. So we have Ghost, right? And think about what Toby's power is. His power is to be intangible, invisible, to disappear, to exist kind of in both realities. That's what Ghost is kind of doing. He's a drug dealer and a super rich guy, right? And his friend and rival, his alter ego, is a character named Tommy Rabbit. And with Spider-Man or any other rabbit hole story, you have the tarring or the tarnishing of the character. Well, in Ghost's case, you have Tariq. Not by coincidence. These are all retellings of the same story, which means the people who are telling you that are writing these stories are not. The companies that push out these stories won't let them stray away from the original design, which is always pointing back to stories of the sky and or spirituality and or nature.